Thank you so much for joining us. We've been catching up a little bit. I was telling you how much my wife likes you and loves your content. But first off, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It is a good day. It's warm in LA. Gotten a lot done today, so I'm feeling good.
What's the temperature in LA right now?
It's like probably it might be in the 80s. I live on the west side of LA, which usually doesn't get above 75 except in August and July.
Mhm.
So and we don't have AC. So it's it's like I'm just sweating for a month straight and then it's back to 75 again.
Y'all do have perfect weather. I'm in the upstate of South Carolina. I think it's 97 today and very humid.
Oh my gosh.
Brutal.
But at least you have good AC. Like that's
Oh yeah.
you just stay inside. You just don't leave your house.
Yep. I went outside for my workout yesterday and it was very hot.
Oh my gosh. I hope you did it in the morning.
No, middle of the afternoon. People think I'm
Right.
crazy because I kind of love that, but
It feels good sometimes to really sweat.
mhm.
Like really, like I sweat a lot more because we don't have AC when I'm working out. And I'm like, even though I know it's not a better workout, quote unquote, it still just feels nice.
Oh, for
Feels
sure. Has health and wellness always been a big part of your life?
No. Everyone's always surprised by this, but I was raised in a family where health and wellness were not a thing at all. Like my parents don't exercise, we did not eat well. I wasn't exposed to really any of that until I got to college and started teaching fitness because just like for fun. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing. I like cringe at like the classes that I taught back then, but I just kind of got into it in college and it sort of snowballed from there. But everyone is so surprised to hear that like my parents, sorry, mom and dad, I'm going to throw you under the bus, but they don't take my classes. I've been begging them to take my classes and they're like, it's just, maybe someday. So
Hey, where'd you go
yeah,
to school?
I went to Kansas for undergrad and grad school.
Oh, very cool. I just had the head strength and conditioning coach from the Kansas basketball team on.
Hootie?
Yeah.
Oh
Dr.
my gosh.
Ramsey.
Oh, okay. So it's not Hootie anymore. See, this is goes to show I'm not.
Yeah, Bill Coach Self brought him in 2019 from the NBA.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, yes. See, goes to my husband would be like, shame on you. You should know that.
All
That's
right, so
awesome. I'll have to listen to
yeah, he
that
was
episode.
really cool. He was the youngest head and strength conditioning coach ever in the NBA. And Coach Self, kind of brought him or like poached him from the NBA to come to the Jayhawks.
That's awesome. It just goes to show how good of a program KU has that he
Oh
could
yeah,
recruit.
always. With
That's awesome.
so you weren't always into it, you get into it, and it becomes your career. Was that like how did that evolve for you?
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, like most kids in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I've always kind of been a little entrepreneurial. Like I've had these little side hustles really since I was a little kid. And so I knew I wanted to do something in business, didn't know what. So I'm actually a business major. I started in IST, Information Systems Technology, and I had a software internship, an internship at a software company. And I was sitting behind a desk working on the software projects as a junior in college. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm more interested in trying to schedule the yoga classes for the employees than I am about the actual project that I'm working on. So I will never forget during my internship, I researched how to apply for physical therapy school because I was like, I got to make a pivot. I
Nice.
got to do something else. And applied for physical therapy school during my internship and surprised that I got in because I had no background and most people are exercise science majors, stuff like that. Got in and continued to teach throughout physical therapy school. And there's a whole story behind all of that and how it got me to where I am now. But yeah, it's so funny like how the twists and turns of life bring you to where you are.
Yeah, so true. What was the first kind type of workouts that you fell in love with?
Yoga. I actually started teaching yoga. Um, I loved the because again, people are going to be surprised to hear this. I don't like love to work out. I like it better now, but like I was never someone that like loved to exercise. I'm not a very athletic person. I was never very good at sports, but I liked yoga and I felt like I was good at yoga. I was naturally flexible. I liked the calming aspect of it. And then as I got into physical therapy school, I started learning more about the importance of building muscle. And I was like, oh, I have no muscle on my
Mm-hmm.
body. And so I started to transition what types of workouts I was doing, started lifting weights, started teaching other types of fitness formats, started get more into like cardio. Sorry for the plane. Can you hear that above me?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, good,
Is
good.
that LAX?
The Santa Monica airport is like really close
Okay.
to us. So we have these like small propeller planes that fly right over our house. So it gets loud. Um, but anyways, it kind of, learning about these different fitness formats, I started to believe that, oh, more is better. I need to be doing more. I need to be exercising all the time. And that led to all this chronic pain, overuse, not prioritizing recovery. And that eventually led me to start the business that I have now, which is all about building fitness results without wearing down your body.
Mm-hmm. Take me through your normal schedule when you were in that phase of wearing down your body.
Yeah. Well, I was teaching a lot of fitness classes at the time. And when you're a fitness teacher, a lot of times you're doing most of the class with the
Mm-hmm.
class. So I would teach at several different places. I'd probably teach once, maybe twice a day at maybe the same studio, maybe a different studio. And then usually a few times a week, I was lifting. And then a few times a week, I was doing yoga. So I was definitely working out intensely every single day, whether it was teaching an intense fitness class and or lifting. And then oftentimes I was doing really 2 workouts a day, sometimes 3. If I was like teaching twice and then I wanted to go do my own lifting session or whatever. And it's so ironic because my body composition and my muscle is better now than it was then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I didn't have any structure in my routine. It was just like, I just got to do more. Like, I'm burning all these calories. That must mean it's effective. And now I like cringe at that. But that's what we're taught in fitness conditioning, is that the more you do, the better your results.
Do you think that's misunderstood from most people trying to get in fitness or like trying to figure out what's best for them?
I think so. I think it's a little bit of a mash of American culture prioritizing hustle and doing more and not resting and not prioritizing or understanding the importance of rest from a physiological level. And I also think that it has a lot to do with marketing. Like if, you see like 30-day fix or like
Mm-hmm.
transform your body in 30 days. And these programs will be very intense and not encourage really any recovery. And people might do that for 30 days and they might see some changes in their body. And then they quickly burn themselves out, either because they hurt themselves or they're like, I can't maintain this. It's too hard to stay consistent. And they quit. And then the gains that they saw slowly fade. And then they come back to it and it becomes this cycle of like this yo-yoing, and people think that like, oh, well, that worked. Like I had all this intensity in that program and I saw some results. So that must mean that is required. When I'm all about teaching people that's not required.
Mm-hmm.
We care about longevity, which means that you have to train smarter, not harder.
How did it click for you?
I had, when I was like 24, I had chronic pain all over my body, my back, my hip, my shoulder, my wrist. I literally thought that was the price that you had to pay to be fit. Because all my patients were dealing with the same thing. Everybody that was fit that I was treating as a physical therapist was broken down and worn down and had knee pain or back pain or whatever it might be. And, spending every week with me on my table, like trying to patch them back together and almost feeling like it was like bragging rights to be like, yeah, I'm falling apart because I work so hard. And so I thought that was just normal. Like, and I think it is kind of normalized
It
in our
is.
culture.
Yeah.
You go to any gym and everybody has on kinesio tape and knee braces and wrist braces. And it's like, wait a second. If you're so fit and healthy, how come you're hobbling around? Like, is that really true health if your fitness is costing your overall joint health? So I moved from, actually lived in North Carolina for a little bit, right above you.
Nice.
I moved from Kansas City to North Carolina, and I had a period where I was off training for 2 weeks, just moving, and kind of like fell out of a routine. And during those 2 weeks, I was like, I feel amazing.
Dang,
My
you probably
body
felt
feels
good.
so much better. And I was like, wait a second, like, this isn't my body that's the problem. This is my workout that's the problem. So I dug into like biomechanics and physics, and I studied a little bit of bodybuilding actually, and started to like kind of apply different things to my training. And I started to see better results even, and feel better too. So that's kind of where I was inspired by this whole movement of working smarter, not harder.
Is that when your business idea clicked in too?
Yes, definitely. Because I knew that this wasn't an isolated problem with just me, because so many of my patients were dealing with it too. And it's so funny because I talked to so many people. I threw around this idea to so many people, and they were like, well, we don't need another fitness method. Like, there's so many fitness methods out there. That's not what people need. Like, people need to be patched up. Like, you should work on their mobility and their stability so that they can go do the things that they love. And I'm like, yes, but I know that there's people like me who just want to be fit, and they just want to be healthy, and they don't want to feel bad.
Yeah, they want to
So
feel good.
they want to feel good, and they, they're not necessarily worried about being like peak athleticism, or they're not necessarily trying to compete in anything. They just want to be healthy and feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So I just ignored all those people who told me not to do it or told me to pivot in a different way. And I'm really glad I did, because we found a lot of people who it resonates with.
When did you kick off Evlo?
Right before the pandemic, like, right, it was like crazy timing,
And was
because
it all online then?
yes. Well, it was, yes, all online. It was in the works. I will never forget January of 2020. I started like building it. And then
Right
the
before.
pandemic, right before, and then the pandemic hit. It wasn't done yet, but I was like, oh my gosh, I got to just accelerate this. And so
Mm-hmm.
I put on the gas, and it was the crappiest product. My members who were with me from the beginning will remember, like, I just sent out YouTube links, and I had a horrible webcam. Like, you could barely hear me, like, grainy screen. We've upgraded a lot since then, but I'm kind of one of those B+ and out the door people, rather than A+ and never get it out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was that first iteration is always funny to look back on.
What talk me through your training schedule now that you've obviously understood it a lot more, prioritizing recovery and different types of workouts. Like, how do you structure, say, a normal week for you?
Yes. So structure is everything for me now. And I understand first and foremost how to measure my own recovery, and how to
Mm-hmm.
know if I maybe pushed it too hard, or maybe I need to back off a little bit in my training. So I always prioritize that first. But every week, I teach, all the workouts that I do are when I'm teaching for the membership. So I'm not doing any outside workouts. So every week is like a different format, and we're working different muscle groups each day. And then we try to hit each muscle group 1 to 2 times per week on non-consecutive days.
Cool.
And then Saturday and Sunday, I always take recovery. So on my recovery days, like, I might walk or hike. There's some days where I'm like, I can feel my body needs more rest. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not really going to do much, and I'm just going to rest. And I find that those 2 dedicated recovery days have made the biggest difference for me, because number one, I feel like I'm able to gain muscle easier because I don't get injured. I give myself that dedicated time to fully recover. And then number 2, I think it's helped me stay emotionally more committed and consistent, because it's not such a grind. Like, I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
make it to the weekend. Yay, I get 2 full days off. And then by Monday, I'm ready to start again.
Is there some a strategy people could follow if they were trying to figure out the best schedule for them, like mixing strength training or mixing cardio or mixing some HIIT in there?
Yeah. I like to recommend making strength training your cornerstone. And when you're thinking about strength training, you want to structure your week again, similar to what we do, whereas you're not working any one given muscle group on 2 consecutive days. So you don't want to like, work legs on Monday and then work legs again on Tuesday. Like give them at least 48 hours so that they can recover. So I like to say, if you're going to build your workout, start your skeleton of your workout routine or schedule or calendar with your strength workouts. And then from there, sprinkling in cardio. I like to recommend, if you're a runner or if you are a swimmer and you do some other cardio, trying to hit like around 150 minutes per week of like lighter intensity cardio, more endurance type cardio. For me, I just walk, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love walking, big fan of walking, but that's my low intensity or light intensity cardio. And then HIIT, I recommend that I see HIIT as optional, and I actually see that it can be counterproductive for some people, depending on what's going on in your life. I think there's a lot of dogma around HIIT in the fitness industry, and people are like, you got to do it. It's so good for your health. Well, not always. If you're struggling with fertility issues, or if you have joint pain, or if you have chronic stress, HIIT can actually be counterproductive because it's very stressful on your body. So I think that if you're going to add HIIT, sprinkling it into your routine, maybe 2 times a week max, and keeping those sessions really brief, like 15 minutes is really all you need. Because if it's longer than that, then you're probably not getting true high intensity.
Why do you think HIIT has kind of evolved into that you have to do it mentality?
Well, there's a ton of research about how beneficial it is. And I think the problem with the current research that we have on HIIT or on really exercise in general is no one's really studying the upper limits. No one's studying like, oh, this is good for you. Like we're seeing positive benefits from a cellular level when people are adding HIIT. And so we read that, or we see that research, and people interpret that as, oh, that must mean I need to do more of that. Like, oh, that's good for me. That must mean that I should do it all the time. And that's not true. But unfortunately, there's not a ton of research right now on those upper limits. And so people kind of take it out of control or take it out of context. I also think there's not a lot of research on which populations might not benefit from HIIT. It's very generalized right now. And I hope to see more research kind of getting more specific with how to incorporate HIIT and what type of individuals would benefit from HIIT.
Have you seen, I think it's picked up, but how have you seen females pick up more weight training?
I am so happy to see it becoming more of the norm. I think, historically, females have been afraid to lift weights because of the fear of getting bulky. And again, that's coming from marketing. That's not coming from science. If you look at how females respond physiologically, we have lower levels of some anabolic hormones that are responsible for protein synthesis, that are responsible for building muscle. For example, testosterone. Men have higher levels of testosterone usually than women do in general. So that allows men to see faster and more muscle gain than women. So from a physiological level, it's difficult for women, more difficult, not impossible for sure. I've done it, but to build muscle. And so I think that a lot of the fear around that has come from marketers preying on women's insecurity of like getting bigger or bulking up, when in reality, women are like, wait a second, I feel like I like my body composition more than ever after I started building some muscle.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I feel better than ever, and their metabolism increases, and I really want people to at least try it for at least a few months. If they're afraid and they feel like they get bulky, quote unquote, then they can always stop. But
what my wife is always talking about this. She's trying to build muscle and lose fat. And she struggles sometimes with like her nutrition and what to eat and like how to schedule her workouts. What's maybe some tips around that? So trying to build muscle, but also lose fat.
Yes, this is called body recomposition. And this is the like quote unquote toning effect that toning is actually a word made up by the fitness industry. It's not like, you won't find it in the same context in the scientific literature, which I just think is such an illustration of this. But so body recomposition is possible, but it is a lot more difficult, because when you're trying to build muscle, that happens easiest when your body has plenty of fuel. If you think about it, you're building larger, more cells, which requires more fuel from food. So muscle building happens a lot easier and faster when you have a calorie surplus, when you have more food than you burn. But with that, oftentimes will come a little bit of fat gain as well. Now you can like do the bulking and cutting thing, which I haven't gone into a ton in my own research. I haven't done that, but you can do that for sure. Or you can work on body recomposition with the understanding that it's going to be a little bit of a slower process. You can build muscle, but it'll be a lot slower, and you have to have your macros dialed. You have to have calories at a certain level, because if you're eating in too much of a surplus, you'll gain fat. And then you also have to have enough protein. That's crucial. And if you don't have enough protein, then you won't be building the muscle that you need. So yeah, it's a harder process. One thing that I always like to preface this by saying I'm not formally trained in nutrition, so I can only kind of go by what I've learned from the experts and then what I've had success with personally. But what people can do is they can calculate their total daily energy expenditure. And there's lots of online calculators that people can use. And this will give them a calorie goal to like maintain. So like, let's say your maintenance calories are like 2000, just to keep it a nice even round number. So you want to eat around 2000 calories per day, maybe like a little bit less, like maybe like 1900 calories per day for the fat loss. And then making sure that you're getting plenty of protein so that you have the fuel and the amino acids to be able to build muscle.
When did you learn how important protein is?
You'd think that I would have learned this a lot sooner than I did. And I'm embarrassed to say that, but like, even after I started my business, I mean, I always knew the importance of it, but are you drinking a beer?
No, green tea.
Say that is epic.
No, I actually gave up drinking in 2019, but I do love green tea.
Oh my gosh, that would have been so funny. So what was I saying? Where was I?
I was asking protein. When did you learn about protein?
Yes. So I always knew the importance of it, but I never knew really how much I was getting until I started tracking like last year. And when I started tracking, I noticed I was getting about half the amount that I should be getting to build muscle. And I was like, no wonder I'm struggling so much to build muscle. And so I basically doubled my protein, and I started to see my body recomp. So I started to lose fat and gain muscle. Now, granted, I was also tracking how many calories I was getting. I think that if you are trying to body recomp, you probably are going to need to track, because it's such a tedious process. It's a harder process to go through. So I think that if you are trying to, a lot of people don't want to hear that because it takes a lot of extra effort. But I do think that that's probably, I had a lot of success personally doing that.
What are some of your favorite types of protein?
I eat all of the meats and things like that. I do a lot of, my followers on Instagram will know this, but I do a lot of sardines. And
my wife's bought sardines recently. So
wait, did she eat them?
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know. She like just keeps them in the fridge in the little container, and
Yep. They're super nutritious and they're very good for you, and they're high in protein. I put them in, I do like a little sardine salad just for the listeners. If you like tuna, people get grossed out by sardines. You got to get the boneless, skinless ones. It's just like fillets. It looks like a can of tuna. Like it looks like the exact same thing, tastes really similar. I actually like sardines better than tuna. Sardines, boneless, skinless, Greek yogurt, pecans, artichokes, apple, and celery. So it's like, and mix it all together. It's like a little sardine salad. Really good. So I do that a lot. I do a lot of chicken. And then I also do a lot of Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. I'm not above a protein bar. I eat a lot of protein bars. I'm not above a protein powder. I do a lot of that too. I think it's hard to get a lot of protein. So I optimize for convenience, and I will do protein powders and bars.
What about carbs? Like what What are some of the better carbs you think compared to, or I think like fruit or rice? What do you think works?
I've tested this in my own body, and I find that if I have a carb heavy, if I have like a bread or tortilla or a carb heavy breakfast or lunch, I crash like
Hmm.
mid to late afternoon. If I'm going to have like tortillas or any kind of bread, I like to have it in the evenings. I feel like it just energy wise, I feel better. So for me, carbs that I do in that breakfast or lunch are going to be like mostly fruits. And then I do tend to do at dinner. I try not to do a lot of bread unless I'm like going out to eat and it's a, special occasion, but I'll
Oh
do
yeah.
rice or tortillas or sweet potatoes. That's what I personally found feels the best for me. I notice this is the whole like intuitive eating movement is like when I eat bread, I feel, ugh, I just
Yeah,
don't
me
feel good
too.
afterwards.
Do you do any fasting?
I play around with it. I am not strict about it at all. I basically wake up and if I'm hungry, I eat something. I used to be like I would only drink black coffee. I would like wait as long as possible to eat. And I've gotten a lot more lenient with it recently. Um, and I know there's lots of contention around fasting. Like some people swear by it, some people
Yep.
think it's awful for women to do. No one's ever going to agree on nutrition stuff, right? So it's just like I think you just try things and see what fits the best and adjust if you have a different chapter of your life. So yeah, I do a little bit of both.
Yeah, I've tried multiple times. I've never really figured out if fasting is something that works for me or not.
Do you get hungry in the morning or like what have you found?
Sometimes. And I think it probably depends on, what I had for dinner.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I've found that if I have, it's so interesting. If I have like a carb heavy dinner, I'll wake
Hmm.
up hungry. Whereas if I don't have a carb heavy, like if I go out to eat and eat like bread and ice cream and like all the things and like have a really beautiful decadent dinner, I'll wake up hungry the next day. And then if I don't, I don't know. It's so fascinating. I wonder if that has something to do with like blood sugars and stuff.
Yeah, very true. Like your body is somehow craving it, even though you had so much more food the night before.
Yeah. Yeah. I would guess, and again, not my area of expertise, but I would guess that it's a blood sugar thing.
With I see you rocking an Oura ring, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
is it?
I am pretty anti fitness tracker.
Okay.
um, only because, um, only because like a lot of the fitness trackers on the market reward endless activity. And I
Hmm.
don't think that they are good about helping us balance recovery and activity. Like the fitness, like Apple Watch doesn't know maybe if you're sick or if you are exhausted or if you have worked out for 6 days in a row and you need a break. It's going to continue to like encourage you to hit those
Yeah,
finish your circles and
goals.
close your circles, no matter what your body's going through. And so I think it can really encourage over exercise. And also, I'm not a big fan of tracking calories burned in your workouts because fitness watches have shown to be like a ridiculous, like I think it's like 70% inaccurate as far as
Yeah,
tracking
sure.
calories. And then it's just not a very good measure of your workout efficiency at all because a weightlifting session, for example, that is maybe one of the most beneficial things for your body isn't going to burn a ton of calories.
Hmm.
So somebody might like start their watch on their lifting session and be like, I only burned 100 calories. Ugh, like that must have not worked. That's not effective. So I think it can kind of skew our thoughts. So, anyways, I was hesitant to get an Aura ring, but I wanted to check it out because people have said great things. And also I wanted to use it for fertility tracking because it can
Hmm.
track your temperature, which is really cool. So I got it and I actually love it. I'm a big fan. Because it is really good at helping you balance recovery and exercise. It'll tell
Hmm.
you like, hey, you had a hard day yesterday. Like maybe you should take it back and it'll automatically adjust your activity
Hmm.
um, goals for the day. So I really like it. I think
My my Whoop.
Whoop is, yeah, I think.
Yeah, Whoop's cool. I had Whoop once, and so it was too much data for me, and it started like overwhelming me. And if I didn't sleep good, or if I wasn't like fully recovered, it would almost like mess with me mentally. So I
Yes.
had to stop wearing it.
Interesting. I think a lot of people are like that
Mhm.
with these fitness trackers. Do you feel like you got like fitness became not fun because you were so obsessed with like doing it perfectly, or what was it for you?
I think it caused almost like if I woke up and I had bad sleep, then my day was like, dang, I had bad sleep. I don't have the right amount of energy. So it was like messing with my mood during the day, depending on how it told me I recovered and slept.
Whereas like maybe if you didn't even have that information, you wouldn't have even noticed.
No, I wouldn't have. And so
Yeah.
I don't wear it anymore. I don't. My wife has an Aura ring, and she has one very similar to the reason you do. She has it for fertility tracking. She also does it for like her period tracking, all that sort of stuff. And she loves it. And it was funny though. I saw her earlier at lunch, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't sleep great last night," like it told me. I was like, "That would have really messed me up."
Yeah, but I think you're so wise to be like, this doesn't fit my personality. Like, I got to get rid of this. Because I
Mhm.
think some people don't really, they have a hard time doing that, like recognizing that in themselves. I think for people like that, which is very common, what I try to do and what I would recommend is before you check your app, just check in with yourself and be like, how do I feel? How did I sleep? Did I sleep okay? Am I feeling good? And a lot of times I'll be like, whoa, I feel like I got hit by a truck today. And I'll check my
Yep.
Aura ring and I'll be like, your recovery score is lower. And I'm like, yes,
I knew
validation.
it. Yep.
But yeah, I think trying not to put too much stock in it is important.
True. With your sleep, is there a certain amount of sleep you try to get? Like what do you do to get good sleep? And obviously you probably know, and I know how important it is.
Oh yeah, I am a big fan of sleeping. It's so funny because I feel like there a lot of like successful people will wake up at 4 in the morning and they'll do the cold plunges and they'll go work out for 3 hours or whatever. I'm like, I think for me to have the most successful day, I need to have enough sleep. And so what I do is I don't have the extensive morning routine. I sleep until 6 or 6:30. I make sure to get those 8.5, 9 hours of sleep because I know I'm going to be so much more productive during my waking hours. And I'm going to see ultimately better results in every area of my life if I can make sure that I'm consistent with my sleep. So I think that's kind of anti what a lot of like people in this space think
Yeah.
or say. But I'm just kind of like, instead of if waking up 3 hours earlier is going to cost my sleep, even though I might be able to get in some self-care practices, I'm like, the sleep's got to come first.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that is changing in a way. And I think the kind of like the traditional old school high performers that got to get up early, they got to start their day doing all this stuff. I think if you get the right amount of sleep, then you're just going to be way more productive throughout your day and you're going to live
Yes,
longer.
exactly. Like, I think the data is just so clear. And we do, like, people think like, oh, I don't need a lot of sleep. And I think there's a spectrum. I think some people maybe need more sleep than others, but the data is so clear. Like, if you aren't getting, 7 hours every night, like your health is going to suffer eventually.
Hmm.
You might be able to compensate for decades, but eventually you're going to feel it. So I'm a big fan of getting in bed at like, between 9 and 10, reading for like even a few minutes, and then got my red light lamps on, which I don't know if
Nice.
you have, we put red light bulbs in our lamps in our bedroom. And our friends are like, what is this, you
Oh
guys? What's
yeah.
happening? I'm in a strip club. Like, what's going on? And it's honestly like very calming. Like it'll put you right to sleep. So yeah, I'm a big fan of just prioritizing sleep as number one, honestly.
Definitely. Back to the Oura ring and you tracking like your cycle, fertility. My wife was, this is question comes from her, but with the female cycle, she's heard a lot about like cycle, like matching your workouts with your cycle, depending on your energy levels. And she said you have some great takes on that. So
Yes,
what
I
is
have
it?
some hot takes for sure. So, a couple of things. I think it's very popular right now because it's new, and people are like, "Oh, what is this? Like, I want to do this. I want to do something different." I like the intention behind it. So the intention is that you don't have to train the same every single day.
Mhm.
And this goes for men, I think, too. Like, it's not necessarily just for females. Like, if you are waking up and you feel horrible, whether it be because of hormonal fluctuations or whether it be because of lifestyle things going on in your life, if you push through that and train as hard as you possibly can, your body is not going to adapt positively. I think being able to like dial it back when you need more recovery and rest is one of the most important things for your longevity. So I like the intention behind cycle syncing, that you're not just like barreling through, even though your hormonal fluctuations are affecting your body. However, I do think it's a little bit misguided, because when we look at what social media is recommending, they're recommending that you do different workouts basically every week of your cycle. So like when you're on your period, you'll do like yoga and walk and Pilates. And then the next week you'll do HIIT. And then the next week you'll strength train. And then the next week you'll do whatever. And so there's really no consistency of your training. And when we're thinking about muscle growth and positive adaptation from fitness, we really do need that consistency. You don't want to be just lifting 2 weeks out of the month, because you're not going to see any progress. Mm-hmm. So even though you can lift every single week of your cycle, you can still gear back a little bit. And maybe you're just not trying to hit a PR on one day when your hormones are a little bit lower. So that's the first thing, or the second thing, wherever I am on that list. And then the final thing is that a lot of the recommendations on like TikTok and Instagram are just a little off. And I think it's because of conditioning around a woman's period. And when you are on your period, you should hug a tub of ice cream. You're tired. You need to sleep on the couch. You're going to be emotional. You're going to be mm-hmm. cranky. And it's just not really physiologically what happens. As far as a hormone perspective, your hormones are actually the lowest when you're on that week of your cycle. And that's when you're hormonally closest to a man. So you have it's a great opportunity for you to lift the heavier weights or push it a little bit harder in your workouts, because you have a better rate of recovery. So that said, there's a lot of individual variability. And so women, I think, just need to like forget everything that they know about their cycle and just notice like, how do they feel throughout their entire cycle, mm-hmm. and just train based on how you feel, instead of train based on like how someone tells you you need to feel.
Very good. With these miracle drugs, I feel like there's a lot of buzz about, and they're in my circles, they're in my, some of the girl groups I know in my hometown. What are your takes on Ozempic, and I think the other one's Mounjaro,
Wegovy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had an endocrinologist on my podcast because I wanted to educate myself a little bit more. And I also am not an MD. So I think anybody who is like in the wellness space and they're saying all these opinions about this drug, but they're not medical doctors, I try to like kind of stay in my lane and just mm-hmm. say like, so I think from what she told me, they can be really great life-changing drugs for people that do need it. For people with diabetes or for those with obesity who need the drug, it can really change their lives. Now, she was saying there's a lot of people that are using it that don't need it, that have normal body weight, or they don't have diabetes, and they're taking it for aesthetic purposes. They're taking it to just lose weight rapidly. And so my thought with all of this is, I have two kind of worries or concerns. The first is if you're taking it and you don't need it, and you're taking it just for like rapid weight loss, what happens with the drug is it makes you not hungry. So it plays on receptors of your brain that make you not really interested in food. Mm-hmm. So you eat very, very little. And when you're eating a very small amount of calories, you lose both lean muscle, so muscle tissue, bone, things like that, and fat. So you're not just losing fat, but you're losing your lean tissue, which is extremely valuable to maintain and gain as you age, because we're losing it already as we age. Mm-hmm. So I think when these people get off the drug, if they get off the drug and they go back to their normal eating schedule, they'll see rapid weight gain, and not only fat, well, all fat really, because not only have they lost a bunch of fat while taking the drug, but they've also lost lean tissue, which is responsible for helping keep a really healthy, high metabolism. So they get off the drug, their metabolism is even lower than when they got on the drug, and they might see themselves bounce back even more. So I think that's kind of my concern. And then my second concern is that I think influencers, whether or not they're selling something related to fitness, will take this and say like, look how good I look. Now
Hmm.
follow my program. Now take my supplement or whatever, even though it's the drug that made them lose a rapid amount of weight, not their fitness program.
Yeah.
So those are my two concerns.
Yeah. I've mixed feelings about it. I definitely have, I think, more concerns, and I think it's being abused a little bit more by people that don't need it, right now. And especially if you're losing more muscle instead of, I think the ratio is you're losing, like you said, more lean mass, more muscle almost than fat. So by the time you do get off the drug, if you do, you're more weak, you're fragile, you've lost a lot of muscle. And for
Your
longevity, that
metabolism is
just,
shot. Your
yeah, just,
metabolism is shot. Yeah. Yeah. I think if you're going to be on the drug, like working with a dietitian or somebody who is like, okay, you need to at least to make sure that you're getting sufficient calories and that you
mhm.
are strength training and that you're eating enough protein to hopefully offset that. But I think a lot of people aren't doing that. They're like, oh yeah, I only have to eat 500 calories. So that means I
Yeah.
can lose like 40 pounds in a month and see really rapid weight loss. So I think there's no free lunch, right? I think
Yeah.
I think although it can be a great drug for those who need it potentially, I think we got to be careful for some of the side effects.
Yeah, totally. And I think there needs to be more studies too. And it's just an interesting time because those drugs have gotten so much buzz,
I know.
and just kind of shake my head.
I know, but it's so interesting. Like the endocrinologist was like, I've been prescribing this drug for years and years and years. Like it's not new. It's
Hmm.
just that like it's just gotten popular for some reason, like the last couple of years, or not even like maybe 1 year.
Yep.
She's like, I've been prescribing that. I think she said she's been prescribing it since like 2015 or something. So it's been around a while.
Does quick change of topic. Does your husband, does he work out? Is he very
He
active?
does. He does my workouts, which is so
Nice.
fun because he never I've taught for years and years before I started this, he never went to my classes or did my workouts and he loves them now because he plays basketball, he plays golf, and he has a history of like back pain. He herniated a disc squatting, like just like I did. And so he's like, I don't want to hurt myself. And he likes that the classes are, you're lifting weights.
Hmm.
It's not just for women, like men have the same deltoid insertion and origin that we do. So it's like the same movements work for men too. Just they just have to use heavier weights. So yeah, he loves it. He also runs a little bit too, like once or twice a week.
Very cool. My wife, she's got me working out with her more. Like when we just started getting together, I was kind of like the guy that just go to the gym, not really talk to anybody. And now she's like gotten me involved in the community and now the teachers and the classes and all that sort of stuff.
I love that. What do you guys do together? That's so cute.
We do a little bit of everything. We'll go to the gym together and do different strength training workouts or same movements, but maybe we'll be on a different schedule, but we'll do yoga together. We have like this Soul Strong class. So it's like a heated workout class, which I like because I love to
Lovely.
sweat sometimes.
Yes. Love. Same.
So a
Same.
little
I
bit of
love doing
everything.
workouts.
All right. So Evlo, what can people expect from your program and your website and your scheduling?
Yeah. So all of our instructors are doctors of physical therapy and have a ton of continuing education beyond physical therapy school about biomechanics, about the nervous system, about exercise adaptations. And so our whole goal is to help you build muscle without the wear and tear. And that comes with a ton of structure and following our structured program, which is great because people just get to press play on the class and show up and not think about what they have to do. Comes with a ton of structure, and it also comes with the exercises that we choose. We think that exercise selection is huge. It's not just about the exercises that you're doing, but it's also about the ones that you're choosing not to do.
Mhm.
And so we give a ton of education even within that of like, okay, if this isn't working, here's how to adapt it and change it. So our whole goal is to like really help educate people so that they feel empowered to almost like create their own little custom workout even within our classes. So that's Evlo.
The great point about picking the workout. Can you just expand on that one bit?
Yeah. So I always say not every exercise is created equal. So exercise is just physics. It's just load moving around an axis, and you're an engineer, so maybe you can kind of understand this. But so when we're thinking about how our body needs to be resisting load, we need to think about what tissues are doing that resisting. Is this load in line with the muscle that I'm trying to target and load? Or is it kind of at a weird angle, and therefore the muscle kind of gets a little stimulus, but we're also getting some joint capsule stress there. We're also getting some ligament stress there, and maybe it feels okay for now, but after repetitions and decades of doing that exercise, eventually it's like, oh, why does my shoulder hurt, or why does my knee hurt? Because of the forces that have gone through your body. So physics is probably an entire different conversation that we could have, but it's really important to understand the angles of force that are going through your body. And I think that that's something that's not widely understood in the fitness industry.
Very true. I think it's so right. Like if a workout or a movement isn't working for you, don't do it.
Yeah.
Find a different one.
Thank you. It's like, oh, people are like, I hate push-ups, but I know I need to do it. And it's like, or you don't, or just like do chest presses instead, because it works the same muscle groups and it's probably more comfortable. So
so true. All right. Last question. If somebody's out there listening and they're like scared to get into working out, or they're just overwhelmed with everything going in, what is like your little message to them to find what's right for them?
it doesn't need to be a lot, but it does need to be intentional. I think that people think, I don't want to do this because if I'm not going to give full all out effort and I'm not going to be in a sweaty heap at the end of my workout, it's not going to be effective. And that's so not true. I barely, it's hot right now in LA, but I usually don't sweat in my workouts. And not that sweating is bad or wrong, but it isn't always necessary. So I think that removing the barrier of time, that it doesn't have to be 60 minutes 6 times a week, removing that it doesn't have to be grueling and exhausting in order to be effective. I think those are 2 things to really kind of understand, and things that our conditioning really doesn't want us to believe. People have a lot of resistance to it, but if they try it and they see the results and they feel better and they're hooked, they don't go back.
Awesome. Well, it's been so informative. I'm so glad to have you on, and I'm just excited to continue to follow you and continue to see what you do. Cause I mean, like you said, you've built an incredible brand.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You asked such good questions. This was such a lovely interview.
Well, thank you so much, and enjoy LA, and hopefully it gets a little bit cooler for you, but thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.